Oh,
Sorry.
cool. Oh, I'm gonna do this. And now, ladies and brothers of the diaspora, I'd like to introduce to some and present to others Dr. Nana Chike Akua is one of
All
the
right.
most sought after speakers of the urban schools, colleges, universities, and educational conferences. He is also an associate professor of higher education leadership at Clark Atlanta University. Dr. Akua is the author of 13 books in total, producer of a series of historical videos online, and 70 Black history and African proverb posters. His books, African Origins of Our Faith, Pan-African Principles of Spiritual Unity 2025, and Kepera, Ancient Kemetic Concepts in Education and Transformation in 2024. They delve deeply into using ancient Kemetic culture to transform our current condition. Dr. Akua's book, Honoring Our Ancestral Obligations, 7 Steps to Black Student Success, is also a favorite on many college and university campuses. Dr. Akua has also developed Reading Revolution Online, a web-based, culturally relevant academic support tool that increases reading comprehension, vocabulary development, grammar, and writing skills. Dr. Akua has been featured in Ebony Magazine and more recently in Black Enterprise Magazine and the Washington Post for his work as an innovative educational leader. He has helped lead over 100 students and parents on trips throughout Egypt, Ghana,
1,000.
Senegal,
1,000.
and Morocco.
1,000.
1,000, yes. Oh, yes, my bad. And 1,000 students. In 2022, Dr. Akua was installed as a chief in Ghana and given the name Nana Abaka, meaning leader with heart, spirit, and soul. Dr. Akua earned a doctorate in educational policy studies at Georgia State University, a Master of Arts degree in education with a concentration in school counseling from Clark Atlanta University, and is a Bachelor of Arts degree in English education from Hampton University. He is also the father of 2 sons and resides just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, here in the United States. And you can learn more about him as we get into it. Dr. Akua.
Yes,
Welcome.
sir. Thank you. Thank you. It's a
That's
blessing to
my
be here
first
with
time
you
doing
all.
an introduction like that.
No, you did fantastic.
Uh,
Great to be here with y'all.
yeah, hopefully more will come through. Hopefully, I don't know. It varies. Like I said, I sent out 23 invitations, and this is what we have so far. But anyway,
Well,
I
found
wanted
that those
to.
who are supposed to be here are here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we always say. Those who make it, make it. And yeah. So anyway, so what I wanted to do first of all, before I turn the reins over to you, Dr. Akua, is just talk to your brothers about. But anyway, so I mentioned to you guys last time about getting a name for our group. Did anybody give that any thought? No. So I'm thinking rather than, I always send the email, Ghana, Egypt. Yeah, we need to change that, man. So there is so anyway, I'm going to ask you again to think about it. I'm going to start sending emails and texts to remind you guys to come up with an idea for a better name for our group. And yeah, so that's with that. And in future meetings, I want to get a little more, as I've always said, I don't feel like I'm running these things. I'm just one got to start it. But I want to get more into some serious issues. I want to cover topics on religion. I want to get a little more into the impact of colonialism. The whole matter of fact, in one of my poems, uh, there's a line that's been sticking out to me to recognize with clarity the contamination of colonialism, racism, white supremacy, and the mental slavery that's so deeply embedded all around the world. We haven't really touched on that kind of stuff yet. I want us to start to get a little deeper into what's really going on this planet. Ashe?
I say,
Ashe. So other than that, man, we never have an agenda. We just usually just goes from there. So I guess I'll just let Dr. Akua on in, unless anybody has anything they want to share. Marcus, how's your book coming? Marcus,
It's coming along well. I've turned over the first 5 chapters. I think give it the last chapter, and then we'll just start going through it like that. But yeah, I should be putting it out maybe this spring for sure. Yeah.
oh, wait a minute. Was that you? So what's the title of your book?
Hello? I can't hear you now. What happened? Hello?
What's the title of your book?
The title?
Yeah.
It's still untitled. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. So who is that? Who's that just came out with a book talking about
That was
financial freedom? That wasn't you then.
no, that was Sabi, his son, I think. I think
That's
his
a
son
me.
put out a
Okay.
book. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you work. What's your topic on? You say?
My book is about American history and culture.
Okay. Yeah, I just actually sent an email out to Amazon today uh, to release my book finally. Um, yeah, so they said it's going to take about 2 or 3 weeks for it to finalize to get everything out there. So it'll be out soon, fellas, and I'll be doing what I do. Anyway,
Looking forward to it, brother. Looking forward to it.
yeah. So, Brother Raphael,
excuse me, I'm Raphael. And can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to introduce myself. So I'm Raphael, and I'm living here in Sacramento. Uh, bred in L.A. Uh, Seasoned in San Quentin, and now here doing what we do. That is, those of us who get out from a life sentence, we become assets in the community. So that's what I do. Uh, I've been a member of many nonprofit organizations, but recently I'm with what is called Insight Out, and it's a program that we started in San Quentin, and now we're going back into the prison system to help the brothers and sisters that are still in there to get out, and then when they get out, to help them stay out. And that's me. That's who I am, and good to be here and to be involved in whichever way that the brothers are involved in the lives of those who need us.
Good to have you here, brother.
Yes, welcome, welcome.
So, Brother Raphael, would you mind sharing how long you were in and how long you've been out? Because I think that's a pretty amazing story, personally.
Well, time-wise, I was in there for 33 and a half years when parole board found me suitable. And the governor's office always tries to block all lifers from getting out. So the governor's office, I should say, opposed it, but the board stayed with their decision, and I got out in 2017. So I went in 1983 and got out in 2017. And needless to say, I'm one of tens of thousands of brothers that have had to go through that experience with the board. It was happening long before I even went in. I remember when they had George Jackson in the system for petty robbery, and they gave him a life sentence, and they didn't want to let him out. And when his books became an object or a subject of anti-racism, they didn't want him out, and they ended up killing him, murdering him, assassinating him right there on the grounds of San Quentin. So the system has been doing that long before I was born, and they hope to continue doing it long after I'm gone. But while I'm here, myself and other brothers, we want to change that. We want to stop it and we want to change it. We want it to be a system that is not only uplifting and humanizing, but it gives everyone an opportunity, regardless of where they're at, to rise into a level of living as a human being and not as some object of disdain or hatred, because that's what racism propagates. Objectifying people, dehumanizing them, and causing untold pain and suffering. So, yeah, I'm pretty much institutionalized because I was in the system long before I started the life sentence. I think in my teen years, I became an object of pursuit, and every time I lost, I ended up in jail. And it was my second time going into the prison system, and so yeah, I'm pretty much living a life that has purpose and meaning. I don't use drugs. I don't victimize anyone. I try to support and help everyone wherever they're at, bring them up to a level of health, wellness, and prosperity. So that's my life work right now.
You sound I've talked to you on several occasions in the past. But you sound. Did you get an education while you were in prison?
Well,
Because
yeah,
you're very articulate.
well, the articulation comes from being inside of a cell, and all you have left is your mind, and then books where you can learn and develop more words into your vocabulary. But I did go to college inside. At one time, we had a full-fledged college program, bachelor's degree, and then under Pete Wilson, and also under the federal government, they amended. I think at that time it might have been Reagan. It might have been one of the Bushes. But anyhow, they amended the Pell Grant and said no prisoner should be getting a free education. So they cut the Pell Grant, cut the college program. Then in San Quentin around the year 2000, some people, mostly women, white women, decided that we deserve an education, and so they started a private, independent program that the state did not support, and we was able to go to college inside of San Quentin, graduate with an associate degree, and so yeah, I did get out with an associate. When I got out, I got a bachelor's, and yeah, that was education.
Uh,
But really, to be honest with you, my education started when I read the autobiography of Malcolm
Malcolm
X.
X. Figures.
That's when I became consciously aware of what was going on, not only in my personal life, but what was going on in society. What kind of systems was in effect that created what a school to prison pipeline, cradle to the grave, coming out of prison. All
Right.
these things I became aware of, and so that's when the real education started. Then I read the letters of George Jackson, Soledad brother,
Right.
and his brilliant mind uh, allowed me to get a glimpse into what education means, but not only education, how it fosters freedom and liberation, first of the mind and then of all of us as a collective. So that's where I'm at with education.
Uh, uh, so on that note, since you said that now, I'd like to ask each of you, when did your awakening come? Anybody can jump in. When did it happen for you? When did you
Uh,
decide?
well, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna shoot out there. Mine came reading Stolen Legacies. Stolen Legacy, but I'm gonna tell Raphael. I came through the Adjustment Center in 1985. Just to let you know Adjustment Center, right?
Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
who doesn't know the Adjustment Center,
Well,
right?
if you've been there, you know. If you're not there, you don't know anything about it. But yeah, the
Yeah.
Adjustment Center. I came through in 1985, brother. So I know you like to say, well, welcome back, welcome out of exile. You know, I look when we get locked up. I put it. You know, they put us in exile, and they don't want to let us out. You know. But yeah, mine came when reading Stolen Legacies. But I did read Malcolm X also, the autobiography by Haley, Alex Haley. But yeah, Stolen Legacy, that was mine.
Who's the author of Stolen Legacy?
I think George Jim James.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That awakened me to everything, all the philosophy, you know, like I you know, you learn about Plato, Socrates, and all them, and they try to prop Greek up because they're Caucasian, you know, but they don't tell you that all them guys, they learned from Kemet, you know.
Hey, hey.
They'll tell you about Kemet. It you know, then they have to prop up Africa. So they try to make Africa, you guys don't know anything, but they don't let you know that these men they learn here. So when I see y'all, not to say anybody that be in the college, you know, I'm not down in college, but when you join these Greek sororities, Greek fraternities, you know, you're doing it, you know, you Greek, you know, why is everything got to be Greek? You know, you're propping Caucasian up like they're smarter. You're looking up to them, and there was a situation where. And I'm going to religion. I'm gonna just sneak peek right quick because I don't want to take up everybody's time. But I remember, and not think that when I got out in 1988, I was out there doing wrong. But I got a homegirl. She had a 5-year-old son, and that for a period of time, you know, I called myself God, and I knock on her door. She's 5-year-old son, and his name is Anthony, and he said, who is it? I said, it's God, and he opened up the door. He said, nah, it ain't your God is white. I said, huh? And I told
Really?
girl Jean about it, and she's like, oh, don't pay him no, like don't never mind. But that scarred me. You know, he thinks Jesus, God is white. So if we got an attitude like God is white, that means that if God is white, the Son of God is white, that means we're in a lower par. And when you get into doing stuff, you know, we quick to kill a brother because he's not close to God. But we can have a gun on a white man, and we're not gonna pull the trigger because we don't want to kill that, right? Because he's close to God. You know, I'm gonna leave it at that. You know, I'm gonna get the next brother to go ahead and speak.
Brother Dangerous, I see you made it in. So we
Yes,
just
I
kind
did.
of,
How you doing?
Hey,
we're doing
okay,
good,
brother.
son. So we
Happy
just
New Year.
Happy New Year to you
Happy New
too.
Year. Good to see
So
you.
as you introduce yourself, Brother John, right now we're the question out there, the survey or whatever you want to call it out there is, when did you have your awakening? When did you come to consciousness, to African consciousness?
You know, to be honest with you, I think it happened when I was in high school, and it happened after the uprising in '67 in Detroit. Because you know, I live in Detroit. I witnessed some of it happening, and just okay. We had the Shrine of the Black Madonna. We had Vaughn's Bookstore, and we just had a lot of, I guess, African awareness in the city of Detroit, and it just happened during the I'm gonna say, okay, I graduated in 1970, so probably the years that I was in high school, 67, 68, and 69.
Okay. All right.
And you know, I've just been learning as much as I can on my own because that wasn't being taught
In schools.
Yeah. You know, it was their history, and you know, we were just a footnote in their history.
So were you able to, since you called it at an early age, so were you able to sit before some of the giants like Clark and Yakinen and so on? Asa Hill,
No,
yeah.
actually, I wasn't. And
Oh no.
I tell you who I did learn a lot from, and that was Doctor. Oh damn! All right, he wrote Black Labor, White Wealth.
Oh, Black
Claude
Label. Okay.
Anderson. Claude
Oh, Claude
Anderson.
Anderson. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
because he was. You know, I saw him often down at Wayne State.
all right.
And then there was oh God, trying to think of the oh okay, his name
Okay.
escapes me. But he was a prominent attorney in Detroit, and he damn okay,
All right, brother.
it'll
Anyway,
come to me. But
Brother
I
Marcus.
would say my awakening happened early.
All right. It's good. I wish it happened for me. Brother Marcus, how about you, sir? You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So when did your awakening come?
That's a really good question. I was trying to think about it as you know were going around with everyone else. I don't know if I have a definitive moment that I can highlight. I've always been a reader, always been observant, and so I noticed
Okay.
very early just a lot of hypocrisy in how we live and what goes on around us and everything.
Okay.
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and so I grew up, visiting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s home, and just our
Okay.
city, Atlanta at that time really kind of raises you to be conscious and aware.
Right.
I think that
Okay.
might have been part of it for me, just being fortunate enough to grow up there.
Right.
So yeah.
That's amazing. Douglas, how about
Well,
you, brother?
I have to think it was probably listening to Like It Is in New York City with Gil Noble. Now, you guys probably never heard of him, but
Yeah, I heard of him.
okay, well, he had a show with basically telling you about what's going on with Black people, and he had everybody that you named pretty much on there. So I guess that was my introduction to it, even though my father initially told me to look at it. I hated it.
Uh,
But as time went on, I was tuned in every Sunday.
how old were you?
I probably was about 12, 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when did it really click?
I guess, as you said, probably when I really read Malcolm X, probably. That's probably when
Yeah.
everything sort of clicked a little bit more. And then as life goes on, you start learning different things. But that probably was it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, as for me, I'm 71, be 72 next week. And my awakening came about 8 years ago. So 32 years as a Christian. Well, 30 some odd years as a crackhead, then 32 years as a Christian. Uh, and my awakening came one day, remember it so vividly, plus I've written about it so much, is listening to YouTube, and I kept seeing this YouTube video pop up in my feed, The Dangers of Religion. And I would never listen to it because I'm saying, no, they talking bad about Jesus. I don't even hear no crap like that. This must be the devil. Get behind me, Satan. I ain't trying to hear that. But it kept popping up for some reason. And so one day I finally decided, okay, let me see what this is about. And I listened to this brother. It was Dr. Ray Hagins. And his story just, I don't know how many of you know Ray Hagins, who Ray Hagins is, but
Well, you told us on the trip about him. I've been listening to him.
oh yeah, okay, yeah. So that was the guy. And the big thing that hit me at the end of all of it was he impressed upon his listeners to think about what you believe, and that's what I began to do. And the minute I started doing that, and then I read the first book I read was Know Thyself by Naeem Akbar. And from there, and I haven't been the greatest reader, but from there I went to like The Miseducation of the Negro, the George G.M. James Stolen Legacies, the Destruction of Black Civilization, and I got a ton of books. Most of them, like I say, I was 67 years old when I got my awakening. So, you know, so trying to get into the habit of doing all this reading. Most of my information comes from, video. I got books. I buy books. I got Dr. Akua's book. I haven't read it yet, Dr. Akua, but I got it.
Okay.
But I got a bunch of books that I bought here recently in these 8 years that I haven't, read bits and pieces of them. But that's when my awakening came. And so, Dr. Akua, how about
Yes.
you? When did it start for you? Were you always Dr. Akua, or was there a time? When did your awakening come?
No, I haven't always been on the path that I'm on now. Actually, quite the opposite. My first few years of elementary school, I was a good student and everything. But in sixth grade, I went from being an A/B student to becoming a D student.
Oh,
An interesting situation occurred. Um, and that continued for a few years. And in eighth grade, I got my first F. And man, my parents were really on me about this. But when I say that the thing started turning in the negative around sixth grade, I'm reminded of, I'm sure you all are familiar with Dr. Jawan Njufu and
Yes.
his book, Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. And he talks about his theory called the fourth grade failure syndrome. And in it, he says that black boys, when they enter school, are very inquisitive and energetic. But by the fourth grade, um, due to a culturally irrelevant curriculum and teachers who don't understand the learning styles of young black males start getting into trouble, getting suspended, and struggling academically. So for me, the fourth grade failure syndrome actually happened in the sixth grade, and I didn't recover until my senior year in high school. So from sixth to the 11th grade, it was terrible. High school, I had a 1.9 GPA. And but in my senior year, or the summer right before my senior year, I underwent a dramatic transformation. My sister came home from college and she was teaching school and she began to tutor me. What's interesting about that is none of the tutoring was academic in nature. It was all really social emotional. I think she did the Jedi mind trick on me. She looked at my schedule for the upcoming semester and told me what I could expect in each of those classes and told me what grade I was going to make. Just in a very positive way, hey, this is what this class is about. You're going to like this class. I know you can get an A in this. And this class is a little more difficult, but you can get at least a B in that. And sure enough, I ended up getting a 3.2 in that first semester of my senior year. Well, one semester of a 3.2 doesn't average very well with 3 years of a 1.9 GPA. So I graduated with a 2.006 GPA from high school. My SAT and ACT scores were in the toilet, but I was accepted on probation to Hampton University, one of our great HBCUs. And I tell people that the reason that I like HBCUs is because an HBCU saved my life. I got accepted to the pre-college summer bridge program at Hampton University, and going to that school and being surrounded by Black excellence with professors who looked like me, professors who cared, and students from all over the world, certainly all over America, but also all over the world. Brilliant, beautiful brothers and sisters. It just did something to me. And so I had to maintain at least a 2.0 GPA in the summer program in order to be accepted as a full-time student in the fall. I didn't get a 2.0 or a 3.0. I got a 4.0 because I felt so blessed to be there. And my parents had struggled and my sister had struggled to send me there. So So yeah, I did well in pre-college and got accepted as a full-time student. So that was when my academic transformation took place. But my cultural and African-centered transformation took place really in my third year at Hampton. I would say up to then, I was proud to be Black. I was, learning as much as I could. I wanted to be helpful to the community. But in my junior year, there was an organization called the African Studies Cluster, and I started going to their meetings. I still do not remember how I ended up going to their meetings, to be honest with you. But um, I went, and what was really striking to me was that these were brothers and sisters my age who who were amazing at speaking in front of people. They could talk about books they were reading. I wasn't reading any books. The only thing I was reading was the stuff for class, and even that, I had the ability, an ability that I misused, and that ability was to read a portion of a story or a portion of a book and still write a decent paper. And I I abused that ability. So I wasn't reading any full books, but these brothers and sisters were reading whole books and getting up and talking about it with few notes in front of them. It was amazing to me. And so I kept going to these meetings, and the brothers pulled me aside one day and said, "Hey, we're going to have we wanted to invite you to be a part of a rites of passage. Do you want to do that?" I said, what is a rites of passage? I had never heard of that. And so they explained to me that a rites of passage um, was a program where you begin to learn things about your history and culture in communion with other brothers, and you go through different rituals, and it's really a passage from maleness to manhood. So these were brothers that I respected and held in high regard, and so I said, yeah. Well, going through that rites of passage literally transformed the trajectory of my life. Um, Man, what I learned in the midst of that and from the other brothers and the brotherhood that we developed, probably similar to, the brotherhood that you all experienced. It gave my life a sense of purpose, gave my life a sense of direction and a sense of conviction. And my cultural and spiritual consciousness was happening and incubating at the same time. So I was devouring books, Carter G. Woodson, Miseducation of the Negro, books by Naeem Akbar, like From Miseducation to Education, Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery, The Community of Self. Baba Zach Kondo had a book called The Black Student's Guide to a Positive Education. Tony Browder's books like From the Browder File. And so I went from being a non-reader to devouring books, reading the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X Speaks, the autobiography of Malcolm X. And man, I just couldn't get enough of it. And at the same time, I was studying to become a teacher. And so, then I was learning how to infuse that information into classroom lessons and activities and different things of that nature. Um, so that's generally what prompted my transformation. It really began in that junior year of college.
Oh, much. Yeah. On that note, Dr. Akua, I know you said you had some things you wanted to share on screen. So were you able to get your computer?
No,
Yeah,
I'm still not. I'm still not
still
able
not.
to get or on this call on the computer. But what I can do, I may be able to put some links in,
That
yeah, in the chat. So what I'll do is, as a
that's
result
great.
of my transformation, I went on to become an award-winning educator, a teacher of the year. Um, but the awards were also as high as the awards were, so was the resistance to what I was doing. What I
Hmm.
found was that people uh, couldn't deny the impact that I was having. So I tell people, I was getting called down to the principal's office as much as some of my troubled students when I was a teacher because of the things that I was attempting to infuse into the curriculum. Nonetheless, my colleagues, teacher of the year. This is back in 1995, and then came to Georgia and experienced similar success, similar resistance, but also similar successes. My first book came out in 1995, and now to date we have 14 books. The most recent book, which Brother John said he had a copy of, is The African Origins of, which I can share some more y'all about that as well. But I'm trying to find where I can get into the here. Let me see. So I can put some links to these things in there for you.
Well, all they have to do is Google your name, and everything that you ever done will pop up.
That's true. I did want to put some particular links, but I'll tell you this. If you go to readingrevolution.org, again, readingrevolution.org, and you click on books by Dr. Akua, there's a listing of all of the books. And so what I've done over the last 30 years is that we've created resources for students, teachers, and even parents to help them to bring out the brilliant. Okay, now I found the chat. But thank you for putting that in the chat, brother. I'm gonna put, now that I found where the chat is, I'm gonna put links in there. So one of them, I'm gonna give you all a free lecture, and it's called Destiny. What does it mean to be Black? So when you click on that link, it'll take you to one of those free. In addition to that, once you see that, it's going to pique your interest for a lot of other types of information that we share. So I'm also going to put in the chat box the Black History Power Special. The Black History Power Special is 7 of my lectures, access to 7 of them, which would normally be, but we've lowered that and offered a discount and taken that down to $97. One of the things that's particular about these presentations is that I use visual documentation. Visual documentation in the same spirit and in the same tradition of Ashra Kwesi and Tony Browder and other great historians who have presented the truth about our history and culture to us. And so the reason I use visual documentation is because, as you've heard it said before, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it's one thing for me to tell you about our history and culture, but when you see the actual physical evidence that has been intentionally hidden from us with serious attempts to absolutely erase it, when you see the physical evidence, the images, the pictures, it just does something to you. And I believe that it stirs up uh, deep within us and stimulates our African consciousness and spirit in ways that other ways don't. Okay, so that history power special that we're offering, it includes a lecture on African sacred science and civilization, African origins of our faith. Before we even get into the history of those things, the first lecture on there is called Remembering History and why it's so important. When I say remembering, re-membering. To remember is to put something together again. But our history and culture has been dismembered, cut apart. So remembering history talks about the process of how we begin to put our history and culture back together and put it back into the hands of our people in a meaningful way that empowers us.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What does it mean to be black to you?
Mm. What it means to be black to me is to sentiments that have been expressed by Dr. Maulana Karenga. One of the things that Dr. Karenga has indicated is that black is more than a color. That blackness is about consciousness and it's about culture. Consciousness is our expanded awareness of who we are in the community, in the society, and amongst humanity, and even in the universal sense, who we are as spiritual cosmic beings. So blackness is about consciousness and it's about culture. Culture, as Wade Nobles teaches us, provides a general design for living and patterns for interpreting reality. When he says a general design for living, the general design for living that I grew up under was faith in God, hard work, and education. But that's not the general design for living that many of our people are coming up under, unfortunately. When he says that it provides patterns for interpreting reality, when you're not centered in the best of your culture, your patterns for interpreting reality will be distorted. And so there are many brothers that when they see a brother, they don't see a brother, they see a nigga because their pattern for interpreting reality has been distorted. Many sisters, when they see a sister, they don't see a sister, they see a bitch. And so that's because their patterns for interpreting reality have been distorted. So when I'm working with young people, I mention to them, I show them the original pictures and images of us as kings and queens and nobles and architects and scholars and engineers. I show them the pictures and the images. And when I show them those pictures and images, I then say, when I look at you, I see kings and queens and nobles and brilliant people, but we've been trained to see ourselves as niggas and bitches. And when I search the scriptures, when I search the sacred texts of the world, I haven't run across one yet that says, and in the beginning, God created niggas and bitches.
Excuse
But
me, Dr. Akua. Dr.
yeah.
Akua, could
Mhm.
you come on video? Because this is being recorded. So it'd be nice to
Okay, give me just a second. So, yeah, so when I think of what blackness is, it's part color, but it's more consciousness and culture than anything else. And I'll come on just a second. There was one other thing I wanted to put in the chat here. Um,
Well, okay, I got your answer. You quoted several people, but I really wanted to I wanted to get into your feelings about being this so-called black person. Because the thing about colors is that something that came out of what? It came out of the colonial, the the s- the the people who started this stuff about black, white, brown. They had intentions, they had a design, they have had a motive. So now we've become attached to this color scheme, saying that we're black, and then we're using the word Africa. Africa is a colonial name. America is a colonial name. The motherland was never called Africa if we go back into the history that we've uncovered. But what I wanted from you, Dr. Akua, is what are your feelings about who you are as a human being? And you could include the word black or African, because those are actually misnomers. We're human beings, all of us. It doesn't matter where you was born, what your ancestors were. we are all human beings. But when we get into the color of blackness or whiteness, what does the feeling bring that has you identifying as a black person? Not what anyone else is saying. Whether it's Dr. Maulana Ron Karenga, whether it's any of the authors that Frantz Fanon, James Weldon Johnson, all of these great authors that expounded on our experience as a people where we had to defend our right as human beings, and we used the word black and we used the word African. But I'll tell you how it makes me feel to be black. It makes me feel the reality that I'm not a thing, I'm not an object of disdain. It also makes me feel proud of who I am, including my ancestors, my grandparents, and those who lived during slavery times. It makes me feel proud that we were strong enough to survive the atrocities of slavery, overcome the feeling of what? The feeling of self hate. And now here I am, a so called black man, and I say so called because we didn't call ourselves black in the motherland while living there. We didn't identify as that. We identified ourselves as what? A people, a village, And so here I am feeling like I'm now consciously aware that the scheme that these people had, they called themselves white, Aryans, did not win over to this part of time. On this side of civilization, we now realize that those schemes, that those lies that we have bought into, that have conditioned us to even hate ourselves because of the pigmentation, because of the texture of hair, now I realize that I'm someone with value and true worth, and I need not hate myself. I need not hate anyone, especially those who whose intention was to not only denigrate me but destroy me and obliterate me. So that's my feeling of being this so-called black person.
Thank you for sharing that, brother. I'll share some of the information that I've come to know from my research, and then I'll share my feelings as well. Um, I think you all had mentioned that you had been to Egypt, and we know that the original name of Egypt was Kemet, and Kemet means land of the blacks. In ancient Kemetic society and civilization, um, divinity was associated with blackness. So all things black um, were considered to be divine. So, for example, Osar, whom the Greeks referred to as Osiris, was called the Lord of the Perfect Black. So everything related to black was seen as something positive and powerful. Um, when when we come into the American context, that got turned on its head, and everything black was seen as negative, evil, and demonic. And so, um, and so, there's kind of been a response to that when we began to come into consciousness. For example, coming through the civil rights struggle and the student movement, there was a change in the language from Negro and colored to black. And that choice was made by black people, even though it was in response um, to white oppression and white supremacist ideology. So my feelings about that, again, go back to the framework that I shared before, that blackness is more than a color. It's about culture and consciousness. And I would add to that commitment even that we have a shared commitment that's based on shared history, identity, and destiny. The power is not so much in skin color per se. but the power is in our collective identity and consciousness to determine our own destiny. So when you talk about who we are as human beings beyond race or culture, I see myself as a spiritual being, as a cosmic being. The way that I experience the universe and the cosmos, however, comes through my understanding of our culture and spirituality. So in one sense, there's no escaping that, because all the revelations that we receive are coming through our experience as cultural beings as well. And so I think it's important. I think we come to this place, time, and space, and this reality as we are for a reason. And I think we should utilize that to determine how we can come closer together as a people, as humanity, and closer with our Creator. I hope that gives some insights into your question, and thank you for that question.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you have gone deeper than the superficial ideation of color, black, white, brown, yellow, as an identifier, where
Hmm.
we talk about the culture, we talk about the spiritual dimension, the connection that we have with the Creator, and mind you, when it comes to spirituality, we all have a different understanding based on what we've been conditioned to believe or not believe. But when it comes to culture, that's when I can say that I'm black and not something else. And when it comes to spirituality, that's where I can say that I've moved beyond the physical material. And now I'm dwelling in a space that only our ancestors really know about. And we connect with them, but we don't know what they know because they're on the other side. On this
Hmm.
side, spirituality means it means a purpose. It spirituality means a way of life, a way of thinking, a way of feeling, and it has nothing to do with the physical material realm. And so I appreciate what you shared about that. And the reality is, personally, I'm fed up with trying to defend myself as a human being. I'm fed up with trying to identify myself in reaction or in defense of what's being offensively done to take me away from my humanity. And
Hmm.
so I do appreciate everything that you shared. I know that you have done a lot of work. I've looked at some of the work that you do towards educating young black children to bring them into a space where they can feel proud of who they are and not have to be ashamed of who they are. So that when they're in the classroom, they're not trying to be defensive about how they feel or what they have perceived themselves to be, and now realizing that they are at the table because they belong there. That is the table of schools of learning. So I appreciate your work in that regard also.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. When you talk about not wanting to defend who you are, that's legitimate. I feel the same way, and that's one of the reasons why I have structured my life so that I'm not under the immediate intellectual or economic control of white people. Meaning, I don't have to see them every day on the job and different things of that nature. I know a lot of black people who struggle under that daily struggle of having to be in front of them, working with them, seeing acts of racism and all those different things. And so I don't desire to be in a situation where I have to constantly defend who I am either. So I try to make sure that I create sacred space so that I can be around us as much as possible. Um, the other thing is, um, doing the work that I do allows me to be centered in the best of our culture so that if anybody has to be defensive, it would be those that are attempting to oppress us, rather than me having to be defensive. I choose to be affirmative in being who I am and stating who we are and what we have accomplished and what we intend to do, and doing the things in terms of building institutional foundations and different things like that. So thank you for sharing that.
If I may share a little bit, just a little briefly, one of the main things that happened for me was when through listening to Tony Browder and just all the videos that I watched of the various scholars, Yakinen, Clark, Asa Hilliard, I can't say his name, the guy you mentioned earlier, the Jahunte, how do you say his name?
Wanza Kunjufu?
Jufu, let's do a couple by him. And then just so many of the videos that I watched. One of the things that I really locked in on was that Black people, Africans, were the first people on the planet. And when I thought about that, I said, well, if that be the case, then I'm African. And then I get confirmation here just recently, just last year. I did my African ancestry DNA and come to find that and it was kind of amazing, came back 97%, how did the language go, 97% accuracy, that I'm a Nigerian descendant, Yoruba and Hausa people. So, now that just solidified my stance. I'm African, period. And I think with all this stuff that we have going on now, you got your FBAs, you got your ADOS, you got people, African, Indians who were first, and, you got all this confusion, this infighting about who we are, but it just made so much sense to me if you accept as fact that the Black man, the African, was the first person on the planet, and that everybody comes from that, and then you learn other stuff about the Ice Age and all that stuff. But we were the original people, so why would you not be ecstatic to identify as a descendant of the first people on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
For me, that I don't, and I stand firm in it. I have people that I'm around, and I tell them, man, I'm African, well, brother, how man? Well, number one, man, they were the original people. The original people look like me, So why would I not consider myself an African, born in America? Yeah, I don't even like to call myself African American.
Mm-hmm.
I just prefer to say I'm African, period. Let's forget all this stuff because America ain't been nice to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let me say something about that, because I'm sure you all have come across this because you mentioned FBA and different things of that nature. Two things can be true at the same time. So you have some people who claim that we're not African, that we're actually from here. You have those that say we're from Africa, as you said. And the reality is true. Yes, we are from Africa. And yes, our people are from here as well. Prior to the transatlantic slave trade, Africans have been here for thousands upon thousands of years. If you look at the research of Dr. David Imhotep, he provides archaeological evidence that demonstrates that not only were African people here amongst the Olmecs, which you're probably familiar with, about 3,000 years ago in Mexico, the actual African presence in the early Americas goes back some 53,000 years. So we've been here a very long time. So yes, we're from here, but we're also from the motherland. And so I hope that adds some clarity to the conversation that I hear, kind of going around in the community, that's making people choose one or the other without realizing that it's really both and.
All true. It all fits.
Mm-hmm.
I listen extensively to, in my YouTube, I have folders of all you guys, Runoko Ishidi,
Mm-hmm.
listen to so much by him. When you can't help but your mind has to be transformed when you constantly bombard yourself, but you still have to break through. Like I say, I'm about to turn 72. So I have to break through 62, 63, 64, 5 years of indoctrination, assimilation, not
Mm-hmm.
knowing, miseducation, so on and so forth. And then the damage that I did to myself with, drug addiction and just all that stuff. I'm still breaking through all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm breaking through.
And
I
that's a blessing. You have tremendous insight that is needed in the community because you came out of that struggle alive and in your right mind in such a way that you can benefit and be a blessing to other brothers and sisters who are in the midst of that mess right now and don't know what to do. I'm also reminded of the words of Dr. John Henrik Clarke, who said, to be black and beautiful means nothing if we're not also black and powerful.
yeah,
So what does it mean if we say that we're black, if we say that we're African, if we say that we're this or that? What does any of that mean if we have not laid hold of the power to determine our own destiny, culturally, politically, economically, and those different sorts of things? And so I think that this gathering is critical on that level as well, because you all are a group of brothers who have been to the motherland, apparently more than once since you've been to Ghana and Egypt. Obviously, you're well read, exposed to a lot of things. And the fact that you've been to the motherland suggests that you've experienced gainful employment and a lot of opportunities that the vast majority of our people have not. So my question to you all would be, going into this new year, um, what will you all do, or what can you do as a collective, as opposed to individually, but as a collective, to take your collective experience and expertise and leverage that to maybe help a group of young people um, in some way, shape, or form? Just something to think about, because I know you all meet on a relatively consistent basis. I think the next logical step would be to do something in the way of assisting
yeah.
uh, in your own special way. Just something to think about.
Now,
I,
Dr. Akua, I have a question for you in that regard. Now, we're all over the country.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm in Detroit. Now, where are you, John?
I'm in Sacramento, California.
Okay, and
And
how would we? Well, I mean, we could do something like that, like this. But are there any other ways that you can think of?
I would say pooling resources to have an impact in the area where you are. Also, shout out to Detroit. I was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio, so an hour
All
away,
right.
right? So
Yeah.
you all could come together one month and say, okay, any resources, whatever we plan to do, is going to benefit this community center or these youth in Detroit. Next month, we're going to do something, and we're going to whatever we've pulled together, whatever we decide to do is going to benefit this group of people in Sacramento. And I think I heard
Okay.
somebody say Dallas or something like that. But the idea is uh, pooling resources to have an impact in the places where each of you all reside. That's the next level of leadership. That's the next level of organization. Um, and I don't know what that looks like for y'all. I'm throwing it out there as something to consider.
Mhm.
Um, I think just the idea of brothers coming together just to share from the heart, um, even without going into that level of doing things in the community, just what you all have done to come together, share your thoughts and feelings. Those spaces don't exist enough where brothers can just come together and be. without having to do. So I don't want you to feel like you have to do something beyond what you're already doing. Because I've learned over the years in looking at my own mental health that it is not always best to be doing something, but just to be and to be content with just being and not doing, if that makes sense.
I want to take an opportunity right now to share something, especially since you're here, Dr. Akua, to kind of give me your thoughts on something that I'm trying to commit to memory as a way of an affirmation for myself. And I'd like to share it with all the brothers right now, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
So since the eye of my mind is imagination, it is the third eye. It is through this sacred window of spirit that I envision a better world, a world that knows, honors, and affirms the undeniable truth of African greatness. I also see a future where my people are liberated from the dis-ease of systemic racism, and I begin to recognize with clarity the lingering contamination of colonization, racism, white supremacy, and the mental slavery so deeply embedded in societies all over this planet. My third eye shows me a deeper insight into the unfolding of my life, the challenges, struggles, and successes that continue to shape me into the man I was born to be. As I reclaim my African self, a renewed sense of passion and purpose ignites within me, deepening my relationship with my ancestral connection to Africa. I acknowledge without question the divinity of my bodily temple. I know that within me is everything I need for creativity, productivity, and success. Therefore, I choose to live my life guided by the energy of my inner potential. I know without any doubt that I am a continuation of creation aligned with and connected to the divine living spiritual energy source of all life. The realization that imagination is in fact my third eye expands my awareness of who I am, and what I can accomplish as I continue to live my life as an awakened descendant of the firstborn people on this planet. Trusting that within my melanin and my DNA, there is access to the spiritual synergy of all my African ancestors. I will love, honor, and respect my African heritage. I will unapologetically speak this truth to my people whenever the occasion or opportunity presents itself. I will cultivate my mind with the ancient principles of African wisdom and knowledge guided by the sacred science of Ma'at. And we know what that is: truth, justice, righteousness, balance, harmony, and so on and so forth. You know, my birthright remembered.
Great
Hey.
reading, great writing. The only thing I would change in everything that you said was I would use motherland instead of Africa. I have a disdain for those colonial names, America.
Kebalan.
Motherland to me is more significant. It's more appropriate for the land where our ancestors, uh, the earliest beginning of life form as human beings, humanoids, took place. And it is great to be able to identify with Africa as it is known today, but also to go back deep into the history of that land and those people and realize that that is the motherland.
I hear a lot of people say, I've heard a lot of people say that Al-Kabalan is the original name, but then I also heard Renuku Rashidi saying that he's found no evidence of that. Any thoughts, Dr. Akua?
Yeah, I don't like to say things without citing my sources. I think it was Dr. Yusuf Ben Yakanin, who talked about Al-Kibalan being one of the original names, um, and that it meant land of the spirit people. Um, like I said, I don't like to make assertions like that without being able to cite specifically what text I'm coming from.
Right.
But my understanding is that it meant land of the spirit people, and that's because we brought spirit to everything that we did.
Exactly.
We brought spirit to reading and writing and language and literature and architecture and engineering. agriculture and astronomy, mathematics, medicine, science, and technology. But we live in a society now that attempts to despiritualize us in everything that we
Mm.
do. And so those original names are very, very important to the extent that we can find them. So this is yet again one of the reasons why we say Kemet instead of Egypt.
Yeah.
Why we would be inclined to say Al Kibalan instead of Africa. Um, and so the problems with language are really, really deep. I know in my studies of ancient Kemet, there have been many things that have been mistranslated as well that would lead you far away from the higher truths that our ancestors were trying to share with us. One of the things that comes to mind, I'm sure you all have seen these before, especially if you, well, even if you haven't been to Egypt, you've seen these necklaces with that they call a cartouche. It's kind of oval shaped and it has hieroglyphics or Medu Neter written in it. Again, if I was on my computer, I could show you an example of it really quickly. But you see a lot of people wearing these and they're referred to as a cartouche. Well, cartouche is a French term. And the reason that it's referred to as a cartouche is because when Napoleon conquered Egypt, when he brought an army of soldiers to raid the temples, he brought an army of soldiers to subdue the people, but he also brought an army of scholars to raid the temples. And shortly after, a couple of years after they raided Egypt, they produced a 21 volume encyclopedia about everything based on what they studied on ancient Kemet. Well, the reason that that necklace is oftentimes referred to as a cartouche, our ancestors referred to it as a shin or shanu. Shin or shanu means eternity. So when you saw a king's name written in the shanu, I'm wearing an ankh. This isn't what I'm referring to. Y'all know ankh represents everlasting life. But when a king's name was written in a shanu, it represented that their name was being written into eternity. The reason the French called it a cartouche is because when the soldiers raided the temples, when they saw it, they said, "Oh, this looks like one of our rifle cartridges." Cartridge, cartouche. They took a symbol of life and turned it into a symbol of death. Same thing happened with our sacred texts. You look at what people refer to now as the Egyptian Book of the Dead. I talk about this in my book, The African Origins of Our Faith. They call it the Egyptian Book of the Dead. However, it's the exact opposite. It's a book of life. The reason they called it the Egyptian Book of the Dead is because when they either bought it or stole it, which is typically what happened, there was a German Egyptologist who said that he bought the quote unquote Book of the Dead from an Egyptian peasant who said he found the scrolls, the papyrus scrolls, next to a dead body. So they called it Das Totenbuch, Book of the Dead. But again, it's the exact opposite. It's a book of life. So if we don't look at our history and culture through the eyes of those that created it, what happens is, as Du Bois says, we look at ourselves through the eyes of those who despise us. So this issue of names is very, very important. So you have a lot of Black scholars who have, to the best of their ability, provided the original names that we called ourselves, that we called nations and monuments and ideas and concepts and different things like that. The book that I have that breaks that down most effectively is called Kepra. Kepra, here it is right here. Kepra, Ancient Kemetic Concepts in Education and Transformation. Okay, so the link that I put in the chat box, if somebody can click on that and let me know if it leads you to a page with these two books. Kepra, let me see. Let me see.
See the screen I'm sharing?
And then also
Yeah.
African origins of our faith, right?
Yeah, I'm sharing the screen now, Dr. Akua.
Oh, I can't see it on my end.
But you guys can see it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see it.
It's visible.
Oh, now I'm seeing it. Yeah, that's exactly right. So Kepra, the book on the right that you're showing, it has 70 ancient Kemetic concepts written in the original language of Medu Neter, which the Greeks would later call hieroglyphs. And that word is in here too, Medu Neter. So it's written in Medu Neter or hieroglyphics. Then it gives a translation. Then it gives a commentary of each of those 70 concepts that I have found that come up over and over and over as it relates to education and transformation in ancient Kemet, along with other historical information that's very helpful for those that are seeking these higher levels of knowledge. The book, African Origins of Our Faith, is an expansion, a revised and expanded version of a book that came out over 20 years ago in 2004. In that book in 2004, I took 25 ancient Kemetic sayings from ancient Kemetic sacred texts and put them right alongside the biblical scriptures that were saying the same thing. The difference is the Kemetic sacred texts predate the Bible by over 1,000 years. And just to put that in perspective, America isn't even 250 years old yet. So in the new revised version that just came out this past year, I expanded it and provided 55 examples in the table, right alongside the biblical scriptures that are saying the same thing. Now, what's significant about that, along with the commentary that's provided, is that I literally could have taken 1,000 examples. I'm not exaggerating. When I examine the ancient Kemetic sacred texts, I literally could have given 1,000 examples of spiritual ideas and concepts that later are found in the Bible, as well as in the Quran and other spiritual books. The reason I didn't go above 55 is because I didn't want the book to be too thick. I have found, as other Black scholars and authors have found, is that thick books are a negative trigger. People don't oftentimes read them. So I try to keep my books to a certain page count to kind of make sure that people will get into them. So that book, The African Origins of Our Faith, as well as Kepler, both of those are tremendous resources to help us to reconnect both culturally and spiritually to who we are in and with our original linguistic concepts as an important factor.
Yeah, I should note that even before Napoleon, Alexander, the Greek conqueror or warmonger, whatever way you want to identify it, he was also raping and pillaging and destroying the ancient artifacts, libraries, anything that would identify people. And the only thing they wasn't able to destroy was the pyramids for the most part. But everything else they either destroyed or they took with them and made it their own. And they used it to their advantage by putting their names as the authority on it and not those who originally authored and created these works that exemplify and also demonstrate that the civilization that existed in the motherland is far superior to anything that came after it. And it is true that here in America, when we see the images that were carved out of stone, we see that we're looking at what? The same people that you see in the motherland. So whether it was the Toltecs, the Olmecs, the Mayans, the Incas, those were all people of descent from the motherland.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I may, there's a quote that I remember from Neely Fuller, who Francis Quest Wilson drew from a lot from him as well. And he said, until you understand what white supremacy racism is, what it is and how it works, everything you think you understand will only confuse you. And I found that to be so true. The more and more that I learn and come to understand and accept as facts, it's not about bashing white people, it's just acknowledging the truth about them.
Right.
They've done what they've done. They do what they do. It's not, I mean, the scripture in the Bible in Genesis, the one that says, and you shall have power over you shall have dominion over all the fish of the sea, the fowls of the air, and every creeping thing that walks upon the earth. They did that. They have dominion. That's the reality. As far as when you talk about power, right? That's the reality. White folk have done what they wrote their Bible to. Anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. But anyway, I see that as that's what they've done. They've taken dominion because they're everywhere they've gone and pillaged. I was watching Avatar last night, my wife and I, and the Way of Water, and how these people from another planet come to another planet, robbing and pillaging and calling them the enemy. But you've come to their land. You've crossed the sea, you know what I'm saying? And that's the mindset, that has been happening on this planet ever since those people left the mountains and started to venture out. That's all they've ever done.
Well,
and that's the truth.
Yeah, and the power that you say that they have harnessed.
When I say power, they're in control of all the finances, the institutions.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
And the power that they have harnessed, we take back with our conscious awareness and our conscious actions as well. So that power is it only goes as far as you allow it. And so in our minds, what they have objectified, that is, they've made us into an object, we have taken back by showing them that we are beyond the object, we're greater than the object. So we accept that you can call us a nigger, but we've taken that word and we've what? Turned it into an art form. And now you love the nigger. Even if you say that you don't, you love him. You love him because you emulate him, you copy him, you listen to his music, his style, everything about him you are emulating, you are following. So that's the power that they thought they had that they no longer have. And just like the brother said, as a group, we can take it to another level of action. And so, me personally, I don't have to wait for another person to join me. I will go out into the community and reach out to those the youth, and proclaim to them the truth that I have experienced, not only in the system, but out here in society, in the schools. And so I don't have to wait, but if we can work collectively towards that end, the Dr. Akua just mentioned, I think that would be a great next step in the beginning of this what is called the Gregorian calendar.
We'll talk, my brother, for sure. Seriously. Because that's been my thing. I want to do something. I want to share what I've learned. Because definitely being one who grew up his whole life not knowing, I don't want that to happen to a whole nother generation of my people, to not awaken until, they're my age, and all of a sudden you're trying to catch up. So yes, we'll have to talk again. I'll call you and we'll talk about the possibilities of how I can assist or how we can assist each other. All right?
I'm going to have to excuse myself, and I want to thank each and every one of you for all that you've shared and been a part of. And I look forward to connecting with Dr. Akua in his free sessions of learning how to be someone more effective, especially in tutoring, mentoring, and supporting the youth as they come into being educationally, spiritually, and also physically.
Yeah, he's a wealth of information. Um, Dr. Akua, I should let you know. I should let you know, that I was at your meeting a couple, 2, 3 weeks ago, where you introduced Anthony Boyce.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. So him and I have been talking.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I'll be a part of the training this month on the 15th.
Fantastic. Okay,
Yeah, so
great.
I'm still kind of confused because this is all new to me. But hopefully, this step-by-step thing will help me to get this ball rolling. With
Sure.
my
And I have some other things that are coming up. I just posted one today on Facebook, so I'd say stay tuned to that. And, we'll continue to inform and uplift and inspire people whenever and wherever we can. I appreciate you all for inviting me to be a part of this. I have to go as well in a few minutes, but if there are any other closing questions, I can take those at this time.
Dr. Akua, I don't have a question, but I have to take off as well because I've got a standing appointment at 3 o'clock. But it's interesting, you're talking about Black Spirit. And yesterday I was reading something, I was reading a book that Dick Gregory wrote. And in it, he was talking about Black Spirit. And he was talking about the fact that the Africans that got kidnapped from the motherland and were transported here to what became the United States, they became slaves once they got here and got sold. But he said they got here in 1619, and the first hurricane hit the United States in 1635. And he said that to him talks about the Black Spirit, because the hurricanes start in the motherland and work their way along the Middle Passage. And he said, that Black Spirit is to him, that Black Spirit is what drew the hurricane, and that talks about our spirit and the spirit of our ancestors.
Mm. Wow.
So it was just an interesting thought.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard that before. I didn't know that was in his book. I've heard that before. And certainly when you have such a cataclysmic and catastrophic event like our enslavement and everything that occurred subsequent to that enslavement, that cannot happen without there being a spiritual and cosmic reaction to that. And so I definitely think that there's a relationship, between the path the hurricanes take and the fact that it's the same path that the slave ships took. However, you'll notice when a hurricane hits in America or even in the islands of the Caribbean, it's not just white folk who are devastated by that, it's Black folk too. And I think that's symbolic to say that we suffer and we struggle to the extent that we buy in and are assimilated into European and white ways and ideas. So we have to always be mindful to maintain the truth of who our authentic identity is, and to extract ourselves or extricate ourselves from as much of this society as possible as it relates to our values.
Any suggestions on how to make that happen?
I think first by being in constant community and communion with each other, our own people and other people of color, or other people of similar and like-minded values. I think all Black people should have international options. So I think it's very significant the fact that you all have already traveled to the motherland, but we may need options on this side of the planet as well. So just exploring that if you had to leave for an extended period of time, what that might look like. And then I would say there's something called I forgot what it's called. I think it's called being a minimalist, but it's removing from your life the things that are no longer essential. Decluttering, physically decluttering your home, your apartment, your townhouse, which is something I definitely need to do. And relying as little as possible on the institutions that so many of us tend to be intertwined with. I know what I've said is more than just a notion, but it's something, that I'm working on, to be less and less dependent on those that we say are oppressing us. So those are a few things that can be done.
Yeah, I'm hoping that as a result of going through Anthony's course to hopefully, because I'm retired,
Mm-hmm.
so that's one advantage. I don't have to punch that clock every day. Matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, I retired because I was on the verge of going postal uh,
Mm-hmm.
on my job working for the state. Constantly getting passed over for
Mm.
yeah. And I was ready to tell them like a TI is, and I said I better get out of here before I end up in jail. I'm trying to
Right.
deal killing one of these white folks up in here, for this. I slipped. Got
Mm-hmm.
caught slipping. Anyway, so yeah, so I just need to. I'm part of a men's group here in Sacramento. A couple of brothers here. One of the brothers here, he attends it as well. Uh, but yeah, and I also, about WOSE, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I attend part of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I it's just difficult surrounding yourself with people of like mind physically. Physically, I can get it online, but that's one way. But finding people in my area here in Sacramento who are
Mm-hmm.
willing to come together and be who are of like mind, it's hard to do. At least I found it hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's been a challenge for me because I really want to, as I said, I want to be able to reach younger people with my story so that they don't spend their whole life trapped in that double consciousness that the boss wakes up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, to somehow for them to get a head start on coming out of this madness. Because like I said, I recognize with great clarity, the contamination, the infection, the damage that's lingering and continues on and on and on of racism and what colonization and all that stuff that the Caucasian has brought into this world. I see it with
Mm-hmm.
clarity. Man, I can't walk down the street without seeing, the impact of, or watch television and, flipping through. I want to find something about some black people that's positive. That's not there. Just the constant bombardment of this European influence that's just most people just don't pay attention to. But I
Yeah.
see it everywhere now. I just see it in everything. How we're bombarded just constantly. I guess I'm being a little over dramatic right now, but it's just how I feel. Now that
Mm-hmm.
I've awakened from 60 some odd years, and I'm working on my life story as well. I'm doing my autobiography is my next book that's going to come out. And as I remember my coming up and the things, I'm now cognizant of my mother. My mother was born in 35. My grandmother was born in 20, or in 19, 29, 1919 or 18, something like that. But I'm starting to realize what they had to go through.
Mm.
I'm starting to look at all that and how my mother, never finished high school and we were raised on welfare. And so I'm starting to understand why that happened, why it
Mm-hmm.
turned out like that, why I
Yeah.
didn't have a father, never. Because it's going to, I'm just learning so much. So I just want to be able for younger people to start to wake up, stop being um, led around with this bling and this foolishness that they get us all caught up in. distractions, to start to really open your eyes and see, excuse my language, what I'm gonna let it go. What the fuck is going on around here? To really open your eyes and see what's being done to you. Dr. Philip Matthews always has this saying, it's not about, there's nothing wrong with Black people, but something happened to Black people.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I would say in closing myself that the fact that you're retired or that you have that time to commit and to unplug from things is very significant. I'm not retired, but my wife and I have raised our sons, and they're pretty much on their own. One is totally on his own, and the other one, he'll be graduating next year. So we have a little bit more time to unplug than the average person who's kind of still caught up in the day-to-day rat race of having to, again, go and work for people that they don't like or don't respect and different things of that nature. Whatever freedoms we have, we must make sure that we take advantage of that. So even when it's time away from work, time with family, we have to make sure that we maximize those things. And I think it was Malefi Asante that said, at the end of the day, we all have control over two things and two things only, and that is our mind and our mouth. So we want to make sure that that's under our own control and not under the control of somebody else. So I really appreciate this time that we've had together. I hope that you all will go on the websites and support the work that we're doing. We are an independent Black publishing house. We don't rely on grants from large corporations and things of that nature. It's funded and financed solely by conscious Black people who know and appreciate the work that we're doing. So please circulate the links that I gave you. And if you're able, make a purchase yourself, because this is not brought to you by a grant from a large corporation that's oppressing our people. It's brought to you by hardworking people. Thank you so much, Brother John, who are working around the clock to make this information available to the masses of our people in a number of different ways, whether through books, through Black history and African proverb posters, as well as online curricula like Reading Revolution Online. So listen, you all be blessed, take care, and I look forward to communing with you all at another time, all right?
All right, thank you, brother.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Y'all take care.
All right, guys.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything they want to say, or
No,
any
that's
thoughts,
that's
comments?
that's a good one, brother. That's a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
I thank you
Yeah.
very much, brother, for inviting me.
Well, I'm still reaching out to others. I want to get Tony Browder if I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can. I've emailed him and he hasn't responded to me yet. But I'll get some more. Our next meeting, I wanted to really really get into our own self, to talk about yourself, to get to know each other just a little bit better. Just let it all out. You know what I mean? Is that making sense? To tell how you've been dealing with life in this Europeanized environment, and what are your thoughts and challenges and so on and so forth. Okay, so give it some thought. And also, I'm going to send out an email to you, or a text rather, suggesting, helping me to find another name for the group. Because I'm going to start putting it on, once I get these recordings together, we'll start putting it on YouTube as well. So we can hopefully get some kind of following, and I'm gonna start opening the door up for other people. Like I've always said to you guys, hey, invite somebody. I saw my son popped in for a minute. He popped in for a minute and popped right back out. But anyway, before I could get in and come on screen there. But anyway, I appreciate he did that much. He popped in for a minute and popped back out. But yeah, invite people, man. When you get those links, tell people, come in. You never know, who you might bless. Ashe? Ashe. All right, brothers, y'all have a good one. Take care. And we'll see you next time around.
All right, everyone.
Well.
Thank you, Brother John.
All right, man. And